This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the women's room where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is Randy Friedman, Marketing Manager for Ventura County Animal Services. We're so happy to have you here today, Randy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. I asked Randy here today to talk about the socially conscious sheltering model that the Ventura County Animal Services operates within. It is a no-kill shelter, which focuses on being a life-saving facility. And Randy, could you tell us of how you came to be the marketing manager and what is your job description?
Well, I started as a volunteer, much like many of our staff who are here, started as volunteers, just came here walking dogs, taking videos of the animals, trying to get them adopted, and a position opened up. I started working in our vet hospital, kind of just preparing animals for surgery, and then another position opened up in the kennels. So I worked there for a bit. I was taking pictures also of animals, and our director at the time, she said, would you like to do this full time? Right. I said, well, what do you mean? She says, well, would you like to just, come in every day and market our animals, take pictures, take video. And I said, sure, why not? Later I realized that having a dedicated person doing marketing at a shelter is a key towards moving towards life-saving practices, moving from what we used to be as kind of just a pound style to a shelter, a full service, all-encompassing animal shelter that has so many services more now than we used to have ever in the past. And it's really evolved. My position is everything from social media to I manage our website, tours, organizing donations. I do event planning, fundraisers. I'm our photographer, our historian.
Oh, wow.
There's, a lot of us wear multiple hats, but for the most part, I speak for the shelter. I'm our voice, and I love what I do every single day.
Well, we're hearing that. It's coming through. And you also mentioned to me that you're a second generation of animal caretakers, right? You mentioned that your parents took a lot of foster animals.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I'm the first generation. They're the second.
Oh,
so
okay.
I started working here, and then my parents retired. And then I kind of got them into fostering. And this is actually pretty common with a lot of our staff and volunteers. They'll come here and they'll work, and then slowly they'll kind of talk to their friends and family and say, hey, would you like to foster, a rabbit or a kitten, or maybe a dog that just needs a break from, the kennels just to kind of calm down. And, over time, we've built up this foster program of this network really of just absolutely incredibly dedicated, kind-hearted people. So my parents have fostered, I think maybe 100 animals so far, and they get them all home. And not all at once, but just for the course of the past 8 years.
That's really cool. So people could actually contact you about as we're on the subject, about being a foster parent to a pet.
Absolutely. We need them in all, whatever somebody can do. If you work from home, that would be ideal, because then you could just sit there and work at home and have the kitten down below you, maybe feed them every few hours, or have the dog with you on the couch, just resting. And, a lot of people are not working from home, so why not do it with a shelter pet?
Right. Very cool. Well, before I have Randy amaze our listener with the delightful programs the shelter fosters, and in keeping with the convictions of the Women's Room and the Ventura County moral approach to animal care, I'd like first to read a quote that Randy tells me is the motto for many shelters. It's from Mahatma Gandhi and goes like this: The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Randy, would you speak to how the ideology of the Ventura County Animal Services measures up to the Gandhi quote? What does it mean to be a life-saving, full-service municipal animal shelter?
Oh, that's a very tough question. What does it mean? I would say anything that we can do
Uh-huh,
to help an animal find the best pathway forward, we will do. If it's adoption,
uh-huh.
we'll make videos. We'll set up a Twitter page for the animal. We'll do kind of quirky or funny videos with them. If it's helping find their owner, we'll do everything we can. We'll call the numbers on their tag. We'll research their microchip. I mean, we have dogs that come in, cats that come in without, any identification on them at all. And how do we get their image in front of their worried parents' eyes? A lot of listeners right now probably have lost animals at one point or another, and hopefully they found them just down the block. But we have amazing people here who their job is they're investigators. They're researching, they're calling numbers, they're looking on Facebook for owners, matching pictures. And, we have a pretty good success rate in returning animals to their owners.
Wow, that's really cool. So the old-fashioned kind of pound, they kept the animals as long as they could, and when they're too busy, they would euthanize them.
Yeah, that was the model, and a lot of models of animal shelters around the nation for a long time was, what do you do, when the inn is full, as they say.
Right.
We've done everything from doubling up kennels to tripling up animals in the kennel. We have to make sure they get along well first, and euthanasia was always a last resort. But that was the nature of the shelter for many years. And I know a lot of your listeners they've been residents for 20 years. I know a lot of them have been residents for longer, kind of knew the shelter as the pound, quote unquote.
Right.
And euthanasia was population control when we got too full or when animals were here too long. Now that we've transitioned, it's been almost, I think, 10 years to this life-saving model, no animals are ever humanely euthanized for reasons of, they've been here too long, or we have too many animals. And not even, due to, general behavior. It's not a black and white case. Every animal who comes in here, if they display aggression, we look at all the notes. We take tons of notes on these animals. We read what volunteers have read. Sometimes they'll write a note that says, this dog was great when I bathed him, but when I touched his ears, he kind of moved around a little bit. So they'll note that. So when somebody's interested in adopting that dog, we'll say, well, we did a bath, but for now, stay away from the ears because that's a sensitive part. So just because there's a quirk, a behavior quirk or something like that, does not mean we can't adopt them out. We just need to be sure that information is brought to the new adopters.
Right. That's really cool how you create a profile on the pet and see if they match, the adoptive parents. So it sounds much more complex than the old-fashioned view of pound that was based on time and space. Now, because it's so complex, you need community help. Could you inform our listener why the shelter need more staff, more volunteers, more donations and community support, as well as taxpayer funding for such comprehensive care of animals in need?
Right. So you can think of the shelter kind of in two categories. Yes, we are a municipal animal shelter, tax funded. My salary, everybody's salary, the food that the animals eat, the medication that goes into our hospital, a lot of those basic requirements are definitely supported through your tax dollars. But we also have a nonprofit arm. We have it's a 501c3 foundation. It's called Animal Services Foundation of Ventura County. And it's an unpaid board. They're all volunteers who who are, they're custodians of donations that come in. And, you know, if there is something we need, if a dog needs a surgery that maybe we can't do here, we can do a lot of surgeries, but some of them, like orthopedics, you know, pins in place, maybe there was a dog that was hit by a car, and that's just something that we can't do on site here. We'll maybe take some of that donor dollars and have an outside veterinarian do that, perform that surgery, bring the dog back here to the shelter to recover, and then adopt them out. Those are donations we need. I mean, we use those donations for so many things, like kennel enrichment. You know, how to keep animals mentally stable while they're sitting in a kennel for a long time. You know, we have toys, and we have puzzle feeders. We do treat training. You know, our volunteers and staff do treat training with the animals.
What does that mean, treat training?
Treat training. If a dog likes treats, and you know, you can make them look at it with your fingers, you hold it in the air and you say sit, you know, they'll sit, you know, and we teach them how to do that. And we teach them commands, and it actually makes them more adoptable. You know,
wow.
If you come to the shelter and you're looking for a dog, and you see maybe on its information it says, you know, this dog knows sit down, come over here, leave it, you know, you're like, well, that's really cool. It kind of makes them more adoptable. So those are just two of many ways that we use donor dollars.
And enrichment. And we're going to get into that a little later in the program, but let's launch first into the program that comes before anything else, the lost and found services. So what is the biggest mistake grieving pet owners make when they can't find their pet?
I would say the biggest mistake people make when they're looking for their pet is stopping at the point of, you know, making posters or posting online or social media. You know, a lot of people think that's it. That's as far as I can go. I really don't know what else to do. Maybe I'll go on Nextdoor and I'll post the picture. You know, have you seen my dog? Please, you know, here's my phone number. But what we did was we created a lost and found page on our website, vcas.us, and just click on the lost and found button at the top, and it takes you to a page. And we really I tried to make it as easy as possible to go through. And I even put on the top of the page, you know, the biggest mistake people make is not doing everything on the list below. So reporting the animal lost or found, there's a link on there for it. Searching our animals, you know, multiple times a day, you know, either coming to the shelter, or they can look, all of our animals are online on our website. You know, they need to post on maybe the specific missing pet page on Facebook. We have some amazing people out there who monitor and maintain these pages, like Camarillo Missing Pets, Simi Valley Missing Pets. These are all dedicated Facebook pages for people to help find and reunite animals with their owners.
Okay, so what are a couple, you mentioned the social media, what are a couple search tactics pet parents can use and should use?
Make sure the picture they use is good. It shouldn't be a picture where the animal's really small, you know, like you have this huge couch and the dog is really small. Make sure it's a nice face, you know, big face picture. And then on the picture itself, if they can use some kind of software on their phone or their laptop, put your contact information, put your, you know, maybe it's better just to put your email address if you don't want a bunch of phone calls. Make the image really big. You know, a lot of lost and found posters and flyers that we see oftentimes, you know, you have a lot of information on the page, but the animal's picture is like this big, it's like 3 inches. Now we're telling people to make sure the image is really large. It's going to help. It's going to help reunite a lot better.
Right, so people can identify. I actually watched the video and tips that people can do, and they were even suggesting put a great big poster in the back window of your car, and you know, write with a particular. Listeners will have to watch that video, but a particular kind of a marker that you can write there and use your car as advertising. And also, what about searching yourself for the pet?
So a couple of things. If the animal that's missing, if the animal who's missing loves other people, right? They're not going to necessarily run from people. So they're going to be closer to your house. If the dog you're looking for or the cat you're looking for tends to be fearful, they can sometimes go, up to, miles away, sometimes even 17 house lengths away from your home. If they're frightened, we've had dogs that have gone miles that were located, miles away in a different city.
And what about kitties? I see you're a dog lover because you showed me some pictures of you with your dog. So what about people who love kitties and their kitty disappears?
So if your cat is an indoor only cat, never goes outside and somehow got out, the chances are that cat is really, really close to your house. You're not going to need to drive to the next block. They're going to be within 2 to 3 house lengths from your house. Instinctively, cats, when they are outside, they're going to hide. They're going to hide in a bush. Even if you walk by them, they may not come out. So what's suggested is at night, go around with a flashlight and go really, really slow around the bushes, and you're going to see their eyes light up. Just make sure it's a cat's eyes that light up, not a raccoon, or make sure sometimes it can be wildlife, but oftentimes you'll see the cat's eyes light up and then they'll come to you.
Okay. And I guess you can also ask your neighbors if you can search their backyards.
That is absolutely, that was the exact next thing I was going to say, is ask your neighbors, do you mind if I look in your backyard, look under their deck, look through their bushes, maybe ask them, can you look at your Ring? People have the Ring doorbell. Can you maybe look through that footage and see if you can see a cat walking by?
Oh, wow, that's right.
There's a lot of technology that's out these days that can really aid in animals finding homes.
Right. You know what? I'm going to have to hold you right here because we need to do a station ID. I was so interested in what you were saying. We put it off a few minutes. This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM. And we're in the women's room where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. My guest today is Randy Friedman, Marketing Manager for Ventura County Animal Services. VCAS is a no-kill shelter, and Randy is here to talk about how it focuses on being a life-saving facility for all animals. So could you share the success story about Robert? This is a story about reuniting pet and owner. This is an amazing one.
Yeah, so Robert was a gentleman who lived here in Ventura County, lost his cat while he was actually packing to move out of state.
Oh.
The cat jumped out of the window, looked for the cat for a long time, even postponed going his move. He postponed it just to search for his cat, couldn't find him, was heartbroken, moved away, had to move on. I think it was 7 years later.
7?
That someone in our community here in Ventura County found a cat, scanned the cat with a microchip scanner, and it came up with Robert's information.
Oh, and had he changed his information to his new
did, but
address?
we were able to look him up in our computer. We had his people don't usually change their email too much. People don't usually change the phone number too much these days.
Right.
Long time ago, yes. When you moved, you didn't have a cell phone, so your number changed.
Right.
But he flew out to California, and his cat, I think the cat's name was Siobhan, was now just this little old lady. And I think she was 17 years old now. And we caught the reunion on tape, and it went viral. It was translated into all these languages, and it got shown around the world, and people were really excited to see that. But it's rare to reunite a cat with their owner. Only about 5% of stray cats are reunited.
Oh, right.
As opposed to 60%
of dogs. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, wow. There's a huge difference. 60% of stray dogs that come into our shelter are reunited with their owners, and that's because.
Do you have any ideas why so few cats are reunited?
We have a pretty good idea of why. When dogs go missing, we notice it right away. We start
Oh,
looking right away. We go to the shelter right away.
uh-huh.
When cats go missing, especially if they're indoor outdoor cats, people often say to themselves, he always leaves for a couple of days and comes back. Right.
Oh,
And when they finally come to the shelter and they tell us that, it's been 4 or 5 days now, but he usually comes back after 2 or 3 days, or, at that time, the cat has already been adopted out because we hold on to cats for 5 days. Dogs and
oh,
all the animals that come in, we have a mandatory hold of 5 days, or 10 days if they come in and they have a microchip or any kind of identification.
uh-huh.
But they get adopted out.
Oh,
So
wow.
unfortunately, cat owners, if you're a cat owner, if you're listening and you lost your cat, please start looking for them right away. Go on a
Right.
website. There's plenty of tips and tricks on how to find your lost pet.
Right, right. And yeah, the idea of going right on the shelter website right away to see their picture. And it looks like you really update that very, assiduously.
Yeah, our website updates every 30 seconds with new animals. We get about 26 animals come into the shelter every day.
Oh, wow.
That's about 11,000 animals a year. So we're a high intake shelter.
Yes.
We do thousands of adoptions every year, thousands of reunions every year. A lot of animals are sent to rescue. Some are fostered. There's so many different pathways for animals these days. It's a lot different than it used to be.
So I had one more quick question because I thought this was very important about animal lost and found. That when should you not bring a found pet into the shelter?
If you have found an animal and you want to try to find their home, you can keep them at home, but you must report them missing.
Oh,
You can
uh-huh.
do that on our website. You'll be able to still take a picture of the animal at home and it'll show up on the website. So if you lost your cat, I know, Kathleen, you just adopted a cat over this past
Yes,
weekend.
Ruby.
If your newly adopted cat got out and your neighbor picked up the cat and decided, oh, this is a cat that I want to help find its home, I'm going to keep him at home or her, they can do that.
Uh-huh.
But what people don't have at home is a microchip scanner.
Oh, right.
All the animals that leave our shelter for the past, I don't know how many years, have
Uh-huh.
been microchipped, but it needs to be read by a special reader that people
Oh,
don't normally have. So
right.
if you found an animal, please get them scanned. You can bring them to the shelter here. You can take them to a veterinarian or a
Oh,
hospital and say, I found this
uh-huh.
animal. Can you scan them real quick to see if they have an owner?
Oh,
And yeah, that's the biggest thing. So, but one thing we don't want people to do is feel that they can now keep the animal they found. You
oh.
wouldn't want somebody to keep your newly adopted Ruby.
No.
You just fell in love. So, um,
Yeah.
found animals are not your animals. They belong to someone, and their parents are worried, and they want their family member back.
Right. And if you find one that looks really well cared for, and maybe, you shouldn't really do anything, that it may go home, or is that not a good idea? Maybe you should just leave it if it
If
looks
you
like it has a family. Yeah.
Well, whether or not it is well kept or it's not well kept,
Oh, uh-huh.
I would definitely bring them to the shelter. We
And
have a
have
lot
them
of
scanned.
resources. Have
Yeah.
them scanned.
Uh-huh.
We have resources here to help reunite them. If you are going to, again, keep them at home, you do need to make an effort, a large effort to find their families.
Okay, well, that's good information. We have these 11,000 animals a year going through. How do you keep them all alive, safe, and healthy? We're, running out of time, but just talk a little bit about assessment and, the kinds of things that volunteers do.
Well, if you think of what these animals need, so we don't know a lot of their stories when they come in. So we have 3 animal care coordinators. We have 2 for dogs and 1 for cats, and they look at their behavior every day. They take them out. If it's a dog, we'll take them for a walk. We'll see what they know. Maybe we'll get to know the personalities. We take lots of notes,
Uh-huh.
and we do enrichment also.
And
So,
volunteers do
oh my
all of
goodness,
this. Yeah.
yep. Volunteers are absolutely key to our success.
Ah,
I know some of your listeners probably right now have been or are currently volunteers, either with us or maybe the Humane Society in Ojai. It's very, very rewarding. And anybody can be a part of the team. So I encourage anybody listening right now to become a volunteer, become a foster parent, help the animals here stay healthy and be ready for a home.
I especially love the one enrichment you have of children reading to pets.
Yeah,
it's just so cool.
We have a rescue readers program that I have to say is actually run by a woman named Judy. She's a volunteer and she comes every Sunday, and she organizes the event so kids can come and read to shelter animals. If parents are interested, want to know more information, they can go online. Just go to vcas.us/rescue readers, and you'll learn more about it, and they can sign their kids up.
Okay, we only have about 3 more minutes, but we should talk a little bit about rabies. In fact, that rabies was regulated back in Babylonia in 23 BC, where they looked at the Babylonian code and saw people got fined. Does Ventura County have a law requiring rabies vaccinations for dogs and cats?
Yes, those who are over 4 months are required to. I'm sorry, that's for spay and neuter. Those two things are very synonymous. When we talk about rabies, we talk about spay and neuter. Those kind of go hand in hand in my brain. So 3 months for dogs and cats to get the rabies vaccination, and with that they can then get a license tag, which is proof of a current rabies vaccination.
Oh, okay.
But the tag also serves as identification, which is kind of nice.
And this is the Pet Hub license tag that you mentioned.
Yes, our brand new Pet Hub licensing tags are really cool. They have a QR code on them, so anybody who adopts an animal nowadays will get a QR code that's on their pet's license tag, and when they scan
QR mean?
A QR code, I'm not sure what it stands for, but people have seen it's a grid of little tiny boxes. And when you scan it with your phone, the animal owner's information pops up, so you can call them right away and say, hey, I found your dog, I found your cat. Wow. It allows people to reunite their animals with their owners without having to bring them to the shelter.
Right. Well, that sounds pretty cool. So also another quick question we can't spend a lot of time on, but why is it important to have pets spayed or neutered?
Spaying and neutering animals, number one, it's about population control. It's about being responsible. We have an overpopulation of animals in our county, and spay neuter it really is the solution to the overpopulation of animals. Next to that, there's a lot of benefits. Health benefits are amongst the top. Certain types of cancer can't occur when animals are spayed and neutered. They're wanting to jump fences. Their behaviors are a little bit more controlled when they're spayed and neutered. They're not going to want to go out and mate, right? So they're not going to get lost as easy.
Oh, right. This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the women's room where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good. Okay, well, thank you for telling us that. And let's wrap up with the Ventura County Animal Services website, where your listener can get a plethora of information. You've given it a couple times, would you give us the site again? You look at this, folks, because there's just a ton of information there.
Sure, it's www.vcas.us.
Okay, thank you so much, Randy, for coming in to tell our listeners about the Ventura County Animal Services and its commitment to supporting the lives of animals in our county. This is KPPQ LP Ventura, 104.1 FM, and we're in the women's room where we appreciate and support each other. I'm your host, Kathleen Good.